Hey, what's up, English 11 students? It is Monday, April 12th. This is Mr. Kais coming to you from Chapter 15 of To Kill a Mockingbird. We're going to talk about a scene in Chapter 15 that's almost as absurd as the Tim Johnson scene when Atticus Finch is handed the rifle from Hecate and asked to kill the rabid dog. By the way, you guys did very well with your written submissions on that post. I appreciate your effort in engaging in that topic. But we're going to talk about the jail scene here in Chapter 15. It's part of your assigned reading this week. Even if you don't get to that part in the assigned reading, I'd like you to read these pages. It's on pages 169 through 177 of the hard copy. And if you have the PDF copy from this week's module, which is chapters 13 through 16, it's on pages 25 through 29. So we have this weird scenario happening here. So in the middle of this chapter, you have Atticus Finch and Jem and Scout, and Jem and Scout are like trying to go to bed. It's late at night. Atticus leaves, and there's a point when Atticus actually gets up and takes an extension cord, gets in his car and leaves. Of course, this is late at night. He says, "I'm going out for a while. You folks be in bed when I come back, so I'll say goodnight now." And then he takes a long extension cord out the front door. Now, Scout and Jem start getting a little nervous because they've never seen their dad, A, drive to work. He always walks. And B, the extension cords seem a little bit tricky here. Now, what they don't know is Atticus Finch is going down to the jail to protect Tom Robinson, his new client, a black man accused of raping a white woman. It's his client. He's going down to protect Tom Robinson from a lynch mob, which was commonplace during the period of Jim Crow South. Okay, white men would go and feel like they could take justice in their own hands, and in this case, Atticus Finch is going to go down there and protect Tom Robinson. Okay, just like Atticus protects the community from the rabid dog, he's going down to protect Tom Robinson. Here's my character. This is Walter Cunningham Sr. Many of you will recognize the name. Walter Cunningham Jr. plays a big role in the book early. He's a classmate of Scout's, and so this is his dad. He's a farmer. He's a hardworking man. I would say he's a good man for the most part, but he's caught up in the times of the mode of society at the time, and he's the leader of the lynch mob. And he says down at the jail, oh, by the way, Atticus and Jem, of course, or not Atticus and Jem, Scout and Jem, of course, cannot handle watching their dad take off, so they follow him to the jail. And of course, we're learning this through Scout's perspective. So Scout's watching, and Atticus is sitting out in front of the jail. Tom Robinson in the jail. Here comes Walter Cunningham, and he says, "Is he in there, Mr. Finch?" He is, and he's asleep. Don't wake him up. And the man says, "You know what we want? Get aside from the door, Mr. Finch. You could turn around and go home, Walter," Atticus says pleasantly. "Hecate's around somewhere." Well, that's when Walter says, "No, Hecate's not coming back. He's out on a snipe hunt." And if any of you are familiar with a snipe hunt, it's the equivalent to the board stretcher that Mr. Chamberlain sometimes uses, okay? So anyway, so here we have the scenario. We have this showdown. We have this big mob out in front of the jail led by Walter Cunningham. We got Atticus Finch in front of the jail, and he's protecting Tom. He insists that Tom get his day in court. And then you have Scout Finch, who is going to show up. And as it reads, "I broke away from Jem and ran as fast as I could to Atticus. Jem shrieked, tried to catch me. I pushed my way through dark, smelly bodies into the circle of light." Hey, Atticus. Of course, Atticus has a flash of fear in his eyes because why would you want your daughter in such a terrible situation? And he tells Jem, go home. Take Scout and Dill home. Now, this is where it becomes a little absurd. This is where Harper Lee has an agenda. Once again, she is teaching us through the eyes of a juvenile character, a young character. We're not learning this through the eyes of Atticus Finch. We're not learning this through the eyes of Tom Robinson or Dolphus Raymond or even Walter Cunningham. We're learning it through the eyes of a young girl. One of the men says, "I'll send him home," a burly man said, and grabbed Jem roughly by the collar. He yanked Jem nearly off his feet. This is where Scout becomes unruly. "Don't you touch him." I kicked the man swiftly, barefooted. I was surprised to see him fall back in real pain. I intended to kick his shin, but aimed too high. Obviously, that can be left to the imagination where she kicked him. But She does. She gets involved here. Uh, but then it changes directions quickly. Scout says, I saw once more a familiar face, and at the center of the semicircle, I found one. She finds Mr. Walter Cunningham Jr., or Sr. She knows Walter Cunningham Jr., they're classmates. So she finds her classmate's dad. And then she starts conversing. Remember, she's in the middle of this lynch mob. They've come with pitchforks and rope. They're going to kill. They're going to hang Tom Robinson. They're going to take a man's life. And this little girl is right in the middle of this mob having a conversation with the mob leader. She says, Hey, Mr. Cunningham. Hey, Mr. Cunningham, how's your entailment going, getting along? He seemed uncomfortable. He cleared his throat and looked away. My friendly overture had fallen flat. Don't you remember me, Mr. Cunningham? I'm Jean Louise Finch. You brought us some hickory nuts one time, remember? I go to school with Walter. He's your boy, ain't he? Ain't he, sir? He's in my grade, I said, and he does right well. He's a good boy, I added. A real nice boy. We brought him home for dinner one time. Maybe he told you about me. I beat him up one time, but he was real nice about it. Tell him hey for me, won't you? This is Scout having a casual conversation in the middle of a lynch mob with the lynch mob's ringleader. Continued the conversation. Atticus says nothing. This is Scout Finch talking again, I looked around and up at Mr. Cunningham, whose face was equally impassive. Then he did a peculiar thing. He squatted down and took me by both shoulders. I'll tell him you said hey, little lady, he said. Then he straightened up and waved a big paw. Let's clear out, he called. Let's get going, boys. Scout, whether on purpose, whether Harper Lee wanted her to be intentional, Scout single-handedly talked the lynch mob out of killing Tom Robinson. She never mentioned Tom Robinson. She never claimed to be trying to talk him out. All she did was speak a friendly voice to a man that she knew. And this conversation is real surreal. I mean, this part where she says, I beat him up one time, but he was real nice about it. Tell him hey for me. You can see an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old having this conversation. Ignorant or naive, or maybe just simply blessed to not understand the magnitude of the situation. For whatever it is, Scout talks Mr. Cunningham and the crew out of lynching Tom Robinson and wins the day. Okay, which brings us to your assignment this week. And this is all you're going to do. Okay, we are not going to have any quizzes. We are not going to have any other prompts. We're not going to have any discussion posts. You're going to have one writing assignment, and I want to discuss it briefly with you here. Scout Mr. Cunningham in jail. I wrote, Chapter 15 presents an intense showdown between a mob hoping to follow through with Jim Crow justice and Scout Finch, an energetic young girl with a mind of her own. The events show Harper Lee's commitment to have Scout lead the way toward Macon's progression in society. By allowing Scout the opportunity to talk to Walter Cunningham Sr. and the other members of the lynch mob out of their objective, Scout successfully saves Tom Robinson's life. And again, Harper Lee allows Scout's robust personality and tenacious attitude to capture the hearts and the minds of her readers. Okay, you know the scenario. We just walked through it. Here's the prompt. What motivated Scout to run out into the lynch mob? Discuss life with Walter Cunningham Sr. and save Tom Robinson's life. Let me explain what you're going to do. You are going to pick one of the following. Was it foolishness that led her and motivated her to run out there? A sense of right and wrong. Ooh, wrong, right. I'll change that. That's funny. Impulsive tenacity. Ignorance. Or the bottom one says fill in the blank. You can choose. If you have a better idea what motivated Scout to run into the lynch mob, you tell me. But you're going to pick one of these. I'll change that to R-I-G-H-T. Excuse me for my mistake. You can tell on my mind was writing. Okay, so you're going to pick one of these, and you're going to write an argumentative essay of 1 to 1.5 pages is all. Okay, Here's the requirements. After selecting a reason from up here, create a 1 to 1.5 page argument supporting your answer. What do I expect? What am I going to grade on? Does it have an introduction? Okay, this is where you give me the historical context of the situation. Basically, answer this question in your introduction. Why was Scout, Tom Robinson, and the lynch mob all at the jail? Answer that, you have your introduction. Then I want a thesis. Which answer did you choose and why? Okay, I want then a body, of course, with 2 pieces of evidence from the book cited correctly in the conclusion. So you're going to write a page to a page and a half answering this prompt. This is worth 50 points, people, meaning it is going to be heavy on your grade. I anticipate that you have this skill. We have not been short this year on writing argumentative essays. I feel like you can do this with your eyes closed. Okay. So this is your essay. This is your essay prompt. Pick one of these, write an argument. Okay. Pick one of the, whichever one of these answers this question for you. What motivated Scout to run out into the lynch mob? Was it foolishness, sense of right and wrong, impulsive tenacity, like a youthful decision? Was it ignorance? What was it? Okay. That's your essay. Please be very much engaged in this writing prompt. I am going to grade it accordingly. I'm not going to just pass over. This is a little more intense than the discussions you've been a part of. Okay. And it's also attached to Turnitin, so you can't plagiarize and be smart about that. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll be glad to answer them. Hope this finds you all well. God bless.